It is day 2 of the G summit in France, and during a bilateral meeting with the UK, President Trump hinted he may have had second thoughts about escalating the trade war with China. Just a short time ago, senior White House policy advisor Stephen Miller joined us on this program, offered a clarification.
The only second thoughts the president was having is whether to be even tougher and even more aggressive with the tariff schedule on China. And I've spoken to the president about this morning, and this comes straight from him when I tell you that the president was saying maybe we should have gone even tougher on China.
For more on this, we turn to research fellow at the Heritage Foundation, James Roberts. James, are you buying what Stephen Miller and others at the White House, including Larry Kudlow this morning, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, are you buying what they're selling?
Well, you know, China is the major factor on the world stage that has upended the global trading system and led to a lot of these problems that the G7 leaders are grappling with. They have been engaged in predatory behavior. They've gamed the system, the global trade rules.
What do you think President Trump meant when he said, yes, I've had second thoughts, I have second thoughts about a lot of things?
Well, he may have been thinking more about getting rid of tariffs within the G7. These are our friends, and clearly they announced yesterday that the U.S. and Japan have agreed to not go forward with tariffs.
Right.
Maybe he was thinking, yes, maybe if the right deal comes along, we won't impose more tariffs on the German autos, or if we can get the French to roll back this tax on the American Silicon Valley companies, we could avert putting tariffs on French wine. It's hard to say, but there are a lot of things on the table.
But so is President Trump maybe, you know, the public posturing is so tough and aggressive when it comes to tariffs. Do you think privately he's thinking a little bit more like a diplomat?
I think this is the master of the art of the deal, and I think he has a strategy in place. I don't think he wants to see a tariff war with Europe, with our friends. He clearly already made a deal with the Japanese. He's going to make a deal, I think, with Boris Johnson once Brexit happens. We may get a U.S.-UK free trade agreement out of that. I hope he's saying privately to the French and Germans and other leaders, look, we need to scale back all this talk and focus on economic freedom. In our Heritage Foundation Index of Economic Freedom, the U.S., Canada, and UK are way ahead of France, Germany, and Italy.
But even if the president is striking that tone with France and Germany behind closed doors, publicly, you know, he's saying German auto tariffs, French wine tariffs.
Well,
I think led to believe.
I think these are negotiating tactics, really, and there are irritants. But
can they trust what the president is telling them behind closed doors when what he's telling the American people publicly is so different? That's my question.
Well, I think all politicians are skilled at you know, talking out of both sides of their mouths, and I think and diplomats
not
too.
Not all of them.
Maybe not all of them. But no, I think at the end of the day, the G7 countries have been allied. They were allied against the Soviet Union. In the 70s, that's when it started. It was an economic policy coordination group. Now we have the common threat of China that these countries are also seeing. I think privately they are probably glad that the United States under the Trump administration has taken a forceful lead to push back against China.
A forceful lead, but they're maybe not so glad that the United States is now going through a trade war that some economic predictors are saying may lead us into a recession in the next few years.
I think the recession fears are overblown. I think the United States economy is still very strong, really doesn't depend that much on foreign trade. Certainly these tariffs are starting to hit producers, but not really consumers in the pocketbook yet. It would be good if they could come to a deal, but the only way to do that is to pursue these tough strategies. And that's what President Trump is doing.
All right. Well, James, thanks for breaking down your perspective on all this for us this weekend. We appreciate it.
Thank you.